What's up guys, DPW Express here. In today's DPW discussion, Clay and I discuss the successes and failures of Destiny 2 Forsaken, and how effective the expansion was in adding all this new content. Let's jump right in. So overall, I think the campaign in Forsaken is really successful. It kind of tricks you into thinking that it's, a Western revenge story, and it totally is. But the post-campaign stuff, where you're fighting Riven and the Dreaming City thing, is its whole other, almost Tolkien-esque fantasy story. It's very interesting that they went that route.
Yeah, it was a really big tonal shift, because all the marketing was focused towards, oh, this is your revenge. This is a gritty Western world, and then, you have, a few missions of it, but the revenge kind of theme completely goes away once you go to the Dreaming City.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least. I don't
know. I thought the adventures being used to, kind of highlight each boss was sort of a genius move, because
it gave you, a reason to do the adventures. I feel like.
Exactly. They were rewarded with pretty good gear. There was some unique Baron gear to each adventure. All the Barons were really unique, fun boss fights. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. Like the sniper, the rifleman, that was a really fun boss battle.
The rifleman was good.
Yeah.
They all were unique.
Yeah, they were all really well done.
I feel like they did a really solid job with the campaign. It wasn't as, I think, fully realized as the vanilla campaign was, but I kind of understand why, because so much of vanilla Destiny 2's marketing was based off of, hey, look at this campaign we have that we totally didn't have in our first game.
Right.
So
the original campaign had 18 story missions to go through, and
there was more character development in it.
Yeah, but with Forsaken, there were 5 story missions and then the 6 adventures for the Barons. Sort of 2 introductory missions, 2 missions for hunting down the Barons, and then all the adventures, and then the Uldren fight at the end. So I think overall the story, and it's really successful. The cinematics are good. It's definitely interesting. And the whole way it's set up really leads into what happens at the Dreaming City. The whole thing with Savathun and this murder battery that she has going, an attempt to have galactic domination, I think is a really cool thing. And we got to learn a lot more about the Awoken throughout the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like Destiny 1 attempted to make you care about the Awoken. Oh, look at this mysterious race. They have a monarch. Look at Queen Mara. She's super important, but it didn't really work. Not much of Destiny 1's campaign worked.
Yeah, that was the problem, is that in Destiny 1, they didn't really hash out the Awoken enough, so we were like, okay, they come from the Reef, okay, but now we've learned that, hey, they've got this whole hidden, ascendant pocket somewhere near the sun, and, where time moves faster, and all the Awoken here don't remember what it used to be like there, and all this crazy stuff that I really think makes for very, very compelling storytelling. Just the whole Dreaming City tells a story.
Yeah. I feel like they fleshed out Mara Sab a lot better.
I definitely agree. Being able to visit her every couple weeks is awesome.
Oh yeah, and because she was kind of built up to be such a important character when she died at the beginning of the Taken King campaign, but then she disappeared off the face of the earth, and so you're like, okay, well, I know she's an important character, but when's she gonna come back? And I feel like not only did she come back, but was a lot more well developed in this.
Exactly, because
she's given more room to breathe.
Yeah, quite literally off the face of the earth or whatever, because she disappeared to the Ascendant realm, and was it was a whole power move to try to take over Oryx's spot, and it was finally figuring out what happened to her encountering Toland throughout the whole adventure. It's really cool. I'm thoroughly happy with what they did with her character and the whole story arc regarding that. And I'm very interested to see where it goes next, because the story in regards to that is still playing out. It's going to play out until February, with weekly missions with new dialogue, visiting the Queen every so often with unique dialogue. Very cool. It's teasing things to come, and I'm really enjoying that.
I also feel like the story ties into the raid much better.
That it does.
Leviathan did. And that's one thing Destiny 1 did really well, is all the raids, except for Vault of Glass. That was completely isolated, basically. But Crota's End,
they were sort of
King's
continuations
Fault,
of the story. Crota's End, we're killing Crota's soul. Same with Oryx, etc.
Yeah, you still got the satisfaction at the end of the Forsaken campaign. You felt like the story was closed, because there are lots of players who can't do the raid, and we'll touch on this later. But one thing I don't like is when it's like the raid is the final mission.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
That's sort of like what it was for King's Fall.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's like, oh, you killed Oryx, but you didn't really kill the real Oryx.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there were still plenty of players out there who like have the quest to get to the Dreaming City and still haven't, and regardless, they feel like that they got their money's worth for a campaign. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Bungie really did a really good job on the campaign, the story, all the new lore they've added. It's really nice to see them continuing to go in this direction of very unique and very, very well done storytelling.
Agreed. And in the new Forsaken expansion, they introduced 2 new explorable areas, being the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City. And both of these were really well realized, especially the Tangled Shore.
Yes, I agree.
Given the amount of time that I've spent kind of proportionally to the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City, you spend much more time in the Dreaming City. There's virtually nothing to do in the Tangled Shore other than the occasional flashpoint.
Right.
After you finish the campaign. But what I was so impressed, and what's so un-Bungie-like, what it seemed like for the past 3 years, is that they put so much effort into this one area when basically you'd only be there for the campaign.
Exactly. It's a whole area that's sort of designed for the campaign. Almost every nook and cranny of the Tangled Shore is utilized in some way. For the when you're fighting the Mindbender, you go into the Jetsam of Saturn, this crashed ship from during the Reef Wars. You've got just all these different locations that are fully utilized, and I really enjoy that. The Tangled Shore is such a nice location that like I enjoy going there to visit Spider and whatnot because it's enjoyable.
Yeah. Also, and I haven't seen many people talking about this, and I wish they did because it's really respectable. But Bungie did an incredible job on the Lost Sectors.
Yes, the first time that I encountered the bar Lost Sector,
the ridiculous dance club.
Yeah, because at the time I was only like light level 430. I was walking to the bar and I got absolutely like destroyed by the bouncer at the door, and I was like, "Oh, this is so great! All the Lost Sectors are just so good."
Yeah, I'm really glad that they kind of stuck to their guns. Lost Sectors, they're good for flashpoints, but once you past the soft cap, the loot's not very appealing. But
these Lost Sectors were definitely, a lot, what I'd say, better designed than perhaps other ones, I can't really think of many in the EDZ or Nessus that I can, like, recall off the top of my head as being interesting, but, like, the bar, I'm always going to remember the bar.
It's so good.
Yeah, so the Tangled Shore is great, but the Dreaming City puts it to a whole new level. This is definitely one of the best locales that Destiny's ever introduced, and that's saying a lot, given that the Dreadnought exists.
Dreadnought.
It's hard for me to say
Dreadnought was great.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say like which one I like better, but the Dreaming City is like so chock full of these interesting locations and hidden areas and all these just challenges that are waiting to be discovered. It's incredible.
And I think the Petra bounties too encourage exploration around the Dreaming City too, which is, there's plenty. They put so much in for you to explore, so
exactly
they give you a reason to run around, kind of see what there is to see.
Yeah, do the Lost Sectors, collect X amount of whatever, that kind of thing. And so
I like the aesthetic of it a lot too.
Yes, it's like I said earlier, it's very Tolkien-esque. It's this sci-fi fantasy that's like on this level that I haven't seen before, especially in a Destiny game. It's just so well designed, and as the best part about it is the evolution of the curse. As first week it's there's no Taken, the second week it's somewhat, and then the third week it's just all out Taken with these huge Taken blights everywhere, and then the massive tower from the Last Wish emanating just tons of dark magic or whatever. It's just so cool and so well designed.
Yeah, it's awesome. They did a really good job integrating the raid with the explorable area.
That's for sure.
And it'll be interesting to see in Penumbra when they finish up the Leviathan whether that's going to become like a maybe explorable location. You never know.
I agree. Something that Forsaken does really well is the wide variety of activities that it presents to you. You have the Blind Well, you have all of the Ascendant challenges to do, there's the brand new strikes, which are really well designed, all of these new activities that are just really fun to do, and there's reasons to do them too.
Yeah, they give you something to do, which you can't always say that Bungie and Destiny has done a great job at that, but every time you go to the Dreaming City, there's something for you to do. And by the time you finished all the things that there is to do, it's the weekly reset. So you just get to do it all over again.
Exactly. Through the 12 or 13 weeks that Forsaken was out before Black Armory dropped, I had something to do every week. I couldn't level up my all three of my characters separately, like, throughout the week. I had to focus on one of them because there was so much to do. And I highly appreciate that. I really enjoyed what they did with the Blind Well. I think it's a really cool idea because it's a horde mode style activity. The problem with it though is that it suffers from not having a unique loot pool at all. For example, I only ever see people in there usually the first or second day after a weekly reset to finish their bounties for Petra, and people will be in there. They'll do 2 tier 4 activities and then leave. There's no reason to keep going in there, and it's a problem because I really like it. It's fun. The bosses are fun. The mechanics are fun, but like ultimately, there's no reason to do it.
I also would argue that I think matchmaking would be a very helpful addition to the Blind Well.
I agree. That's something that's been missing with like Court of Oryx or the Archon's Forge in the past.
Yeah.
Having to crouch walk into matchmake.
When it works, I mean, there are people there, but when it doesn't, and the activity, you can't do it alone. It's an activity built for multiple different people, and so it kind of, if you want to do the event but no one's around, you can't do it.
Exactly.
And I feel like Bungie's getting a lot better at remedying those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's some logistical game design thing behind it that I don't understand, and if that's the case, it is what it is, But
right.
I don't know. That's one thing I would like to see change with Blind Well.
I definitely agree. And the strikes are some of the best that Destiny has ever had. Not only are they just well designed as far as like mechanically and the design and the feel of them, but they have story, lore implications to them. Like for example, Prison of Elders sets up the future of the Drifter's story in some ways. He teases things to come. The corrupted strike. We free. Yes, it is a great strike. Being able to transport between dimensions to save Setia, and once that strike's completed, she shows up across the Dreaming City, who you can talk to her and get patrols from here.
And it was very
really cool
how
that they
it
got
launched.
that.
It was very cool how that strike launched after the world's first completion of Last Wish.
Exactly.
I thought it was a very interesting touch.
Yeah,
and
suddenly it was available. It was so
it's
cool.
more personal than we've seen from Bungie.
Yes, I'm really glad that they decided to go that route with like the storytelling that's evolving. It's very effective in that way.
Agreed.
And then the Ascendant challenges, 6 of them that are rotating weekly. Those are all really, really fun. They're unique. Yeah. They introduce new and old mechanics. They're difficult, especially when you're first starting to do them.
Yeah, they're very tough.
Mm-hmm. And they're a powerful drop. You get lore bits from Toland as you find him. So it's cool that that's a thing in the game. So I think a lot of the activities that they've introduced into this are really effective. And you'll notice we didn't talk about the Raider Gambit, but those are large enough things to warrant a separate topic discussion on their own.
Agreed.
Also, but as far as the base level,
not to forget the spider bounties as well.
Yes, the spider bounties are really
activities.
Good. They give you enhancement cores. You're able to potentially get Lord of Wolves from them. They're not that hard to do.
Powerful gear drop.
Exactly.
On one of them.
So those kinds of activities, stuff that adds to the longevity of the game. I'm glad that those things are in.
Me too. And Bungie also introduced a lot of new gear for players to obtain through Forsaken. That's kind of expected with a big expansion drop like this that overhaul the weapon system, really. They did.
Yeah, they threw in a new masterworking system.
Oh yeah, a hybrid between the Destiny 1 weapon system where you had a primary, secondary, and heavy, and then the Destiny 2 where it was, the power weapon.
Exactly. Ultimately, I'm really glad that they made that change because in year 1, it felt kind of lackluster when you could use a shotgun every so often because you had to have heavy ammo. That wasn't really fun. And then Yeah, and then having a primary and a secondary that were both like a scout rifle or something, not that enjoyable.
I did like the concept of having the ability to use a scout rifle, but then when you need it, whip out a auto rifle. I did like that.
And that's still a thing. The best part is that this new system is the best of both worlds. It's great.
Yeah, I agree, though. I didn't like being able to having to compromise a rocket launcher for a sniper rifle or a shotgun. I didn't think that was the correct solution.
Exactly.
So I'm happy to see this hybrid of gear.
Exactly. And on top of that, they've added plenty of new armor sets to the game. The new raid gear looks really nice. Crucible, strikes, just all sorts of really appealing gear sets that are interesting to get. And there's a really wide variety of weapons too. There's the unique Tangled Shore weapons that look almost cobbled together, you know, just like how the Tangled Shore itself is cobbled together. But then you have the really nice and animated looking raid weapons, which are some of the best raid weapon designs I've seen since the Taken King raid. So
I agree. Definitely a step up from... I liked the Leviathan weapon designs. It fit with the tone of the raid.
Exactly.
But Last Wish, the weapons just look better.
Right.
Any exotics that stood out to you being
yes,
added in?
definitely. More or less all of them were very interesting. Two-tailed fox is cool. You know, it shoots two rockets at once that both have different abilities. It's nice to see Queenbreaker and Lord of Wolves back, even though Lord of Wolves is slightly broken and needs to be fixed. But you know, all the exotics are really well implemented, even if it is difficult to get them.
Yeah, the drop rates are low. But, you know, that's just kind of what makes an exotic an exotic.
And the new mod system is good too.
Yeah, definitely. Mods
just with black armor, just with black armor, you're able now to buy mods straight from, mod components straight from A to 1, which was not a thing before. So that'll, you know, I really like the new mod system and the abilities they bring. The problem is that getting mod components is not easy. So the fact that they've made it easier to get them, it makes it better, because all the mods are appealing. And I do like the route they took of, instead of having exclusive armor perks from the raid, now there's just exclusive armor mods. Which I think that works well, because then I can stick it on whatever I want, because I use some armor pieces that aren't the raid gear, so...
It's true.
Yeah, it's nice to have those options.
Also, the random rolls, that's a big change too.
Yes, bringing back random rolls is such a good feature. For some reason, some people were actually against it, but having that finally in the game is really nice, because it adds a lot of diversity to the weapons you can get. Because in Destiny 2 Year 1, you know, you get you know, whatever weapon, and it's got a set roll every time. It's not exciting when it drops.
Yeah,
but then
I understand the appeal of once you get a weapon, like that's the weapon. I kind of understand that appeal, but I feel like the random rolls increases the longevity. And they make some guns that may have not have been good with a set roll, it gives them a chance to be good and viable.
And thanks to that, really any weapon can be viable, because in Destiny 2 Year 1, there are plenty of weapons that kind of have just really bad, like, rolls.
There are clear good weapons, clear bad weapons, because you can't change anything about
But now anything can be viable, given that you get good rolls on it, and there's a pretty nice variety of perks as well.
Agreed. I agree with that.
And then I still think one of the best things they've implemented is curated roles. Roles specifically chosen by Bungie that are set, that you can get as a rare drop. So you can see any of the weapons from the raid dropping as them. You can see more or less any weapon drop curated. Just depends on the activity, of course.
Yeah.
So having that in there is a really good feature.
I agree.
Okay. And then you can open up for the raid.
Okay, sick. And of course, there is the infamous Last Wish raid that was introduced. Bungie touted it as the biggest raid experience they've ever made, and I'm pretty sure it lived up to it.
Yes, and while I would say that King's Fall felt larger in the sense of exploring the Dreadnought, Last Wish is definitely larger in the sense of the scale of encounters. It's very fun to explore through more of the Dreaming City, and all the encounters are really, really well designed. You know,
there are a lot of them too.
Brand new mechanics. Yes, there are a lot of them. There are 4 boss battles, 1 puzzle encounter, and then sort of a escape thing at the end. So it's nice to see that these really unique raids that at first were really difficult, because it took the first team like 17 hours to clear, longer than that.
It was more than 24, I think.
Yeah, so
was it? Or, I don't know. It took a really long time. So.
That it did. And that was interesting. It sort of set a precedent. It was like, Bungie, you really haven't released a raid this difficult before. It took people ages to beat Riven.
And part of the difficulty was inflated due to low light levels and high light requirements. So that's understandable, but I think that's kind of the appeal of a raid. It's not supposed to be easy.
Exactly.
It should be it should be doable, but that doesn't mean it should
And it's definitely doable now that everyone's 600 or so.
Oh yeah. It's definitely, I feel, a lot better than, not better, but it's very different from Leviathan. And
Yes.
so, if you look at the 2 raids, at this point in Destiny 1's life cycle, they had 3 raids. They had Vault of Glass, Crota's End, and King's Fall. Now, in Destiny 2, they have 2 main raids, being Leviathan and Last Wish, but they also have the 2 raid layers.
Yep.
Just similar to Crota's End. So, I feel like, not counting the raid layers, Last Wish and Leviathan are so incredibly different. I feel like it's kind of nice to have a good variety.
I agree. I like
raid
Leviathan for what it is. I wouldn't call Leviathan necessarily my favorite raid, but I like what it introduces. But having something, you know, more traditional with Last Wish is something I really like.
Now they just need to bump Leviathan back up to a relevant light level.
Exactly.
With relevant loot. And then I think Guardians have a good choice to choose.
And easily one of the best parts of the raid itself isn't actually a raid encounter, but rather the Wall of Wishes, which is so freaking cool. With, at the moment, 14 wishes out of the 15 have been discovered. Each of them, when inputted into the wall, will either teleport you to a further encounter, add unique Easter eggs such as Drifter dialogue, or failsafe dialogue, or you know, sort of the birthday grunt style effects, or gives you an extra key to use at the end of the raid. It's really cool that they have something like that hasn't been used before, and having the community come together to find all these plates and unlock the wishes. Super cool. I love that idea, and they implemented it so well.
Riven was also a very good boss, not just because the fight was very mechanic heavy and it was very strategic, but also because there was a lot of lore behind Riven.
Yes.
And I like raid bosses that have lore behind them. Bosses like Axis in Wrath of the Machine back in Destiny 1 and Atheon back in Vault of Glass. They were good bosses and they were very good fights, but you didn't really know too much about them.
Exactly. They were just kind of there.
Really deep into Grimoire. With like Crota and Oryx and Callus and Riven, there's a substantial amount of lore behind them.
Exactly.
So it makes it almost more exciting to fight them.
And Riven is impressive visually. There's a lot to live up to with the Ahamkara being teased for years, and now we finally get to experience one. And the fact that it's a take in Ahamkara that's shapeshifting throughout it, and that as soon as you start the encounter, as you're sent down, and you see the full scale of Riven, truly thinking it's like, this is one of the largest things I fought in Destiny. Yeah. So it's really cool. It is very cool.
It's a hard fight. It takes every bit of focus and, you know, like, ability from the players, but it's a great fight.
Exactly.
I'm really happy with what Bungie did with it.
Very, very good raid, and I hope that we see more like it in the future. I think Bungie did a great job on this one.
Agreed.
And with Crucible, there was a huge meta shift with the new weapon slots that came in Destiny 2 Year 2. Suddenly you had so many more options of things that you could use in your secondary slot, be it single shot grenade launchers, or sniper rifles, or shotguns, or fusion rifles. The fact that there was suddenly variety made it 100% better, and the fact that it was 6v6 instead of 4v4, that was a big change right there.
Yeah, I've never been too much of a PvP guy. Like, I'll play it casually, but I'm not really too into the competitive stuff. But
which is fair.
I've just gone back to getting shotgunned 2 minutes into the match. But I agree that even from a casual perspective, most of the changes were better. It just makes Crucible feel a little more put together, I feel like.
I agree. And I'm really glad that with random roles being introduced, a lot more things are viable in Crucible now. In Year 1, there were plenty of things that were meta, like Uriel's Gift, or Prometheus Lens, or the worst meta easily was Graviton Lance and the other weapon, which is escaping my mind at the moment. But those two pulse rifles were just, you know, absolutely the worst things to face up against, and it just wasn't fun to fight them. So the fact that now, like, anything's really viable is just, I really like that. I like that I have so many options as to what I could use. I could run all 3 snipers, I could run 3 shotguns, I can really do whatever I want. So it's nice to have these options. And the new maps are nice. There's a lot of really good, well-designed ones set in the Dreaming City and the Tangled Shore.
Yeah, I agree. Trials of the Nine is gone, which is very interesting.
Yes, that is a bummer.
I mean, I always got wrecked in it, but so.
Yeah, I'm hoping they bring it back in the original Destiny 1 form. So for the time being, we've been having to deal with competitive, which on the other side has not been that great. There's a lot of issues of bad matchmaking, putting people who are, you know, rank 200 versus rank 5000 in the same matches, going up against 4 stacks, which you just get absolutely destroyed in. So while Crucible, it's definitely stepping in a better direction than it was in year 1, there needs to be a couple more changes, I think, to make both competitive and casual really good.
I agree. Yeah, Crucible, it's Crucible. Like, it's a constantly shifting meta.
Mm-hmm.
You get different types of players in it, I feel like. You know, some players are super heavy into the PvE, but some players are super heavy into the PvP. And so it's almost like a different play style, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's perfectly fine. If there was one problem with Destiny 1, it was the really stale metas that just sat there for a while. Same with Destiny 2 year 1. And so finally having something that shakes it up a little. Now, right now, shotguns and pulse rifles are quite meta, but scouts are on their way back up. There's plenty of reasons to use a good sidearm or a bow from time to time. So it's nice to finally have variety in what there is now. So I'm glad that Crucible is still being worked on. I wouldn't necessarily call it like something worth buying Destiny 4 specifically. I still think a lot of the best parts of Destiny come from PvE, because majority of the game's PvE. But the fact that the current and only PvP mode in it is really well executed, I think that I can appreciate what Bungie's done with it.
Yeah, if you're a PvP main, Destiny 2 probably isn't your cup of tea, but maybe it is, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, mostly because, you know, so many things can just instantly gank you, be it a grenade or a melee ability or a super, that it is frustrating at times, but when you go on a rampage in Crucible, it's so satisfying. So
I guess I'm just salty because I suck and never go on said rampages. So.
Yeah, but overall, I think Crucible has definitely been pushed into a much better direction, and I'm excited to see what Bungie's going to do for it in the future.
Me too. And Forsaken also introduced a brand new PvEVP, which I sound really stupid saying. It's called Gambit, and I didn't know what to think. When they were trying to explain Gambit to me, I couldn't visualize it.
Same here.
I didn't really watch any videos about it, which I should have. But I didn't really know what they were doing.
Yeah, it did seem kind of odd at first. I agree.
Yeah, but Gambit is awesome.
Gambit is very well implemented.
It works so well.
It really does. It's very exciting to pull off great plays when you're invading the other team, or melting your primeval at the last second when the other team's melting theirs. The mechanics in it are really fun. Picking up the motes, fighting blockers, and it's a lot more streamlined than I expected it to be. Like you were saying, when I was reading the descriptions and like Bungie was explaining it, I was like, this sounds odd. But when you're actually in the game, it's super simple. It's super streamlined, and you know anyone can play it and get good at it. It's very fun.
The Drifter he's a fun persona to be like the ringleader of it, and there's a ton of stuff with lore.
Exactly.
And he's probably going to be a big deal. He has his expansion. Yeah. Part of the annual pass. So he's a big deal.
He's very fun to listen to during the matches as he cheers for you, tells you to do better, that kind of thing. It's this ongoing commentary that really sets it apart from the other game modes such as Crucible or PvE. Having this really talented voice actor yelling in your ear as you get a 4-man kill during an invasion. It was
needed,
cool.
I feel.
Exactly.
When you're not on planetary exploration, you're doing strikes or in Crucible or the raid, and raid. Not everybody has the you do the raid, and then you either suck at Crucible or you get bored at strikes quickly, so you're just kind of stuck in the middle. I think Gambit's a really good compromise.
Yes, I definitely agree. Gambit's overall really well done, and apparently come the annual pass they're going to be evolving into something more. So I'm just excited to see what they're going to do with it. At the moment, it's fun. If there's any gripes I have necessarily about it, are mostly minor, such as on the Scorn map, the ground instantly kills you, while the same liquid in the campaign only damages you slightly as you're touching it. So
matches can be on the lengthy side too.
Yes, especially with the rewards being lackluster, at least for the amount of time put into the activity.
Agreed.
Because you'll come out of the match with a gun, or maybe not. Maybe you'll leave the match with barely anything at all. So I think Gambit is an incredible game mode, but I think it really needs some better loot systems to it in order to improve upon it even more. I would play a ton if I could get more loot from it. And so a lot of the exotic quests in Forsaken are really well done, be it Ace of Spades, Malfeasance, Chaperone. They're all really cool.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of Destiny 1 were the exotic quests. They
Exactly.
were all... It felt so good when you got a gun, and especially when it was powerful.
Something like Touch of Malice.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. And the Sleeper quest in Destiny 1 was great.
The Whisper... not Whisper, whatever it used to be called, Black Spindle, also was a very, very good quest.
In Destiny 2, there weren't many. They had Legend of Acreus in Leviathan, but as far as I can remember...
They had 3 planetary ones as well. Sturm for Nessus, Mida for Earth.
Correct.
But at the same time, too, those were kind of ones we'd already experienced before and that sort of thing. It was cool to have them, but, it wasn't necessarily something that felt super rewarding. Versus now, Ace of Spades is killer. It's awesome to use in PvP and PvE. It's an incredible hand cannon, as is Malfeasance. The quest for it is awesome. Yeah. Because when you're in Gambit and you see the Taken meatball show up, like... It intensifies the match even more just to be able to melt it. So
the thing from Force Awakens.
Exactly.
The Wrathtar, that's what it's called. The Wrathtar from Force Awakens.
So the exotic quests are great. If there's a gripe to be had about the Malfeasance quest, it's definitely that the spawning rates of said Taken meatball is pretty low. It's increased during the full curse week, but even with that, it's still difficult for
even with Bungie bumping up the encounter rate, it's still pretty low.
Exactly.
But I guess that makes it really fun when you get it.
And it's a lengthy quest that has you play a unique version of the Corrupted Strike, which teases towards Shin Malphur returning with the last word sometime in a couple months. Just plenty of things to be excited about that all the exotic quests tease. Or during the Ace of Spades mission where you're collecting different lore articles and things that Cade has said in the Arcology. It just sort of gives an emotional ending to his character.
Definitely. I agree with that. I think Warmind still has some of the best exotic quests, like the Polaris Lance quest was great, though it was time-gated. Sleeper Simulant quest was awesome, and then the Whisper of the Worm quest, it speaks for itself. That's a legendary. I think that'll go down as a legendary.
Exactly. The
exotic quest.
Whisper of the Worm it blew everyone out of the water when it was discovered, because some guy on Reddit randomly posts, is like, hey guys, I found this weird portal, and sends a community on this hunt for this elusive weapon, which is so cool.
Bungie's good at doing that kind of stuff, and I really hope they have more of that down the line, because it was so special to get that Whisper after that really hard fight, even when you're leveled up.
It's still not easy. Yeah, it's really, really well designed with some callbacks to the Vault of Glass, jumping puzzles, and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely agree that I would say that Warmind has overall better exotic quests, but the rewards for the Forsaken exotic quests are better. I love all the weapons, such as Chaperone. Chaperone's really fun to play with now, even if it did get nerfed from its year 1 version. But to have all these options of new exotics to play with, and very, very well laid out ways to get them, I think it's something that I'd like to see more with upcoming expansions.
The Shattered Throne and Wishender 2 was done very well. That was a great exotic quest.
That was... I wouldn't exactly place it on the level of, like, Secrecy's Whisper, something that the community had to hunt for, but it was definitely something the community wasn't expecting. We knew there was something about a dungeon coming, but on the first full curse week when it opened up, and it was 570 light level, and most people weren't really that close to it, it was like... wow. And then, of course, there's the whole secret mission that unlocks after you do it. You get Wishender, you have to run through it again. It's just so unique. And Wishender is such a cool exotic that's like, wow.
It is cool.
This is awesome. Yeah.
It's quite cool.
I love all the new the quest lines, and Thunderlord especially was unique. It's unfortunate that was a time-gated content.
Yeah.
But being able to go back to the Cosmodrome was very nice.
It was very cool. And, one of the cornerstones of Destiny is the ongoing support. It's a constantly evolving game. And I feel like Bungie, with Forsaken, has been really paying attention to kind of what the players want, and the ongoing support has reflected their listening.
Yes, that's very true. The couple weeks in, after the raid was beaten for the first time, when suddenly the game evolved, there was a new Gambit map, suddenly this new strike was available, all this kind of things. that is very cool. That sort of support as things are being drip fed and that kind of thing, I think is a really effective way to continue to add new content to the game.
I agree with that.
Especially with the Festival of the Lost.
Yeah, Festival of the Lost was significantly better than in past years, because it made it relevant to the player. You know, not everything gated behind the microtransactions. You know, there was an actual weapon you could get from it.
Exactly. Horror Story was a great light level boost for people.
It was kind of grindy with the Haunted Forest, but at least it was something you do.
Yes, the Haunted Forest is a great way to rehash the Infinite Forest, which, of course, as we all know, is just not that good. Osiris in general wasn't a good expansion.
So bad. It was
and
awful. Yeah.
I'm really glad what they did with it. I wouldn't mind a modified version of it coming back as a permanent game mode.
Me neither.
And I will agree that it was grindy, but the weapon was worth it. The masks were really well designed. Even the Eververse special stuff was cool. And of course, that all led into the Thunderlord quest, which we've already discussed, but that was still cool as well. And it was nice even just to get a couple story missions with Amanda Holiday.
Yeah.
So it was good to see them use her, for once for this. So I'm
and
glad
the Master
that
Ives.
Yes, the Master Ives murder quest. Yeah,
the Master Ives quest. That was good too. The Thunderlord was a great weapon again, but it was a little annoying because the quest you had to do like a lost sector and then come back next week. So that was a little frustrating.
Exactly, having to essentially wait just 2 weeks to be able to do the one mission, but it was worth it to go back to the Cosmodrome.
It was worth it.
And there have been plenty of quality of life updates throughout this. They've been fixing bugs pretty often. They've been very, very communicative. Versus the past, they're constantly talking.
I think the bottom line with Forsaken is Bungie's listening to the community.
That's
and
the big thing about it.
The recent financial reports saying that Destiny 2 isn't really living up to what Activision wanted. I think Bungie is going back towards a more, okay, we have our audience. Let's cater towards them.
Exactly.
Let's make sure that,
Exactly, because like at this point, most people who played the beginning of Destiny 2, such as casual newcomers, probably aren't still playing the game.
No,
they heard bad things about Osiris, and it's like, okay, well, what's the point of picking it up? But Forsaken has been such a turnaround, especially for recurring players such as myself, that they're really, pointing towards that, especially with Black Armory and all this new endgame content that they're adding with it. It's nice to see that they're catering towards their more, while they're still catering towards the casual audiences, more towards their hardcore audience as well. So more communication, all that sort of thing. It's nice. I'm really glad that that's in the game, and I'm glad that Bungie is still continuing to support it through the annual pass and continued content drops that aren't necessarily related to a specific DLC, such as Festival of the Lost, upcoming The Dawning, next year's Crimson Days, that kind of thing. I'm glad that we're getting events like that.
The annual pass is a much better way of doing things than like an expansion.
Definitely, because the issue with the expansion is that you're left with an uninteresting or something that hasn't been hashed out enough 5-mission story with 1 or 2 cinematic cutscenes, ultimately leading into a subpar endgame. And that was very much the case with Osiris, which essentially had no endgame at all. Warmind had a much better endgame. There's plenty of things to grind for in that.
Osiris was top tier bad.
Exactly, but with Forsaken, there's so much to do in the endgame that Bungie's been adding that I'm glad that they're going with this sort of drip-feeding annual pass kind of thing, wrapping up stories with all sorts of different characters, all to lead into whatever next year's expansion is. So I'm really glad that Bungie's been continuing to support this game, because I love Destiny. Even at its worst, it's still one of the most solid and polished games.
There's something about Destiny that keeps bringing me back, and the things that Destiny does do right, like the exotic quests, like Whisper, the raid experience,
etc.
When Destiny embraces its identity, Destiny, it's an incredible experience.
Exactly. It's just overall, the game's in such a good spot right now, and I'm really, really looking forward to see what Bungie's doing with the game in the future.
Me too.
Well, that's all for today. Next week's episode will be a new series, Nintendesign, focusing on the nuances and nitty-gritty details of Nintendo's many, many franchises. Thanks for watching.